Well, I noticed a lot of new faces this evening, and I'm so glad you all came. And I want you to know that this is a safe place to share. So if you want to tell us your story, there'll be no judgment.
Hi, my name is Charlie, and as you know, I am addicted to cars. I wanted to introduce you guys to, it's basically going to be my daily driver. I just purchased it about 3 weeks ago, a month ago maybe. Replaced my 2021 F-150, which I really like that F-150, but the payments were pretty hefty and there was a lot of things on that I wasn't using, such as the four-wheel drive. And to be honest, you always can use a truck, so it's not that I don't need a truck, because as soon as I say that, I need it every time. But I didn't need it consistently enough for that kind of a payment. With all these other things, all these other projects I got, I don't have much in the way of money to spare, and I would like to decrease the payments on that. So what I did is I decided to get something used. We needed something to be able to tow, just light towing as far as our dirt bikes. That's basically all we ever used the truck for anyway, was taking our dirt bikes up to the desert to ride. So anyways, let me show you guys what I did. Again, it's just a daily driver, nothing special. But since this channel is a celebration of all cars, not just classic cars or exotic cars or unique cars, it's also just our daily drivers because we love them and we're gluttons for them. I wanted to make sure and add that to this channel because I like it, man. It's a cool car, so check it out. So here it is. This is my new to me 2019 Ford Explorer XLT. It's a 7-seater, 7-passenger. It's got all kinds of configurations. It The seats will fold down like any SUV on earth. Not a huge deal there. But I think it looks really good. We went ahead and upgraded the wheels first thing because they were pretty awful. Put some 20-inch rims on there. I can't remember the brand of rims, but they're pretty sweet. You can look at them there. OS, is that right? Yeah, this is not the first Ford Explorer that we've had, or that I've had. I think the last one was a 2007, which was a pretty good car for us. You can't really say that the Ford Explorer was the first SUV, but it was definitely one of the first modern SUVs and set the bar for what SUVs have become now. The Ford Explorer came along in 1990. It was actually the 1991 model was the first year, and that kind of set the bar for what SUVs would become. This and basically the Jeep Cherokee, I think, were the first two that get credit for what a modern SUV is. So that's pretty cool. So a little history again. The Ford Explorer debuted in 1990 as the 1991 model. It was introduced with two models. There was the 4-door Explorer, and then there was a 2-door Explorer Sport. Now, the Explorer kind of came about because of lagging sales with the Bronco 2. So that 2-door Explorer definitely filled that hole in the market. The first year, the 1991 Ford Explorer won 4-Wheeler of the Year award. It sold so much and it was so popular that it was basically the beginning of the end for the Ford Bronco, which is bittersweet for me because I like these Explorers, but I love the Bronco. And when that went away, I was more than a little bitter at these for replacing them, but I get it. So anyways, first generation was 1991 to 1994. Those Explorers were modeled off of the Ford Ranger pickup chassis. Again, Ford sold 140,509 units of the Explorer in its first year. In its second year, it sold twice as many, 282,800 sales. 1992, the 2-door Eddie Bauer Explorer Sport joined the lineup. That's when Eddie Bauer first put its name on Explorer. And in 1994, the Explorer Limited trim level was introduced, and that was the highest level. All the bells and whistles, leather. Limited was the one to have. Second generation was 1995 to 2001. It was a much more rounded and refined design. It was named Best Compact SUV by J.D. Power. 1996 was kind of a big deal because that's when the first V8 debuted. It was a 5-liter overhead valve V8 engine. It was 215 horsepower, 280 foot-pounds of torque, and came paired as an all-wheel drive. It's really no coincidence that 1996 was the first year that the V8 entered into the equation for the Ford Explorer, and that was the last we would see of the Bronco for the next few decades. 1997, a new single overhead cam V6 is introduced for the Ford Explorer XLT, the Eddie Bauer, and the Limited SUVs. 205 horsepower and 245 pounds of torque. 395,227 deliveries for 1995. The Explorer reached its all-time peak in the year 2000 with 445,157 units. That's a lot of vehicles. As I've been looking into the history of different cars, I mean, that's a lot. It closed out the second generation with slightly less than their peak, but it was still 415,921 deliveries for 2001. The third generation was 2002 to 2005. They made it 2.5 inches wider and a 2-inch longer wheelbase. Obviously, tons more safety features, especially in the crash and rollover safety, because that was the one thing I remember about the Explorer was the rollover stories. There was always people rolling these things over early on because they were kind of shaped like a weird brick. Obviously weren't as stable as they could have been. So the third generation, they won Best Family Sport Utility Vehicle by PBS's Motor Week television show. Best of What's New from Popular Science. Best Overall Value of the Year by IntelliChoice. Tow Vehicle of the Year from Trailer Boats magazine. And Best Pick Award from Insurance Institute for Highway Safety in Front Offset Crash Performance. So lots of awards. The fourth generation was 2006 to 2010. Obviously a lot more advancements in technology, also convenience features like power folding rear seats, power running boards, heated windshield, heated seats. Those will be options on some of the nicer models. And then you get to the fifth gen, which is what this is. This is the final year of the fifth gen because those went from 2011 to 2019. It was a complete redesign. This was the first time that they started looking like this. They went from that square, really rectangular brick shape, which was very recognizable by Explorers for their entire run, to, I don't know, a more, I don't know, this just seems like a more sporty muscle car look. I know some people would disagree with that, but it really does. It's, I guess, I don't know if it's because Highway Patrol and the police started driving them as interceptors, but I don't know, they just got a much tougher look than what they used to have. I did like the old Explorers, don't get me wrong, but they were more of a classic SUV, what I would think of as a family vehicle. This is more still the conveniences of a family vehicle, but just a little more sporty package. 2012, well actually 2011, so the first year of this generation, it won North American Truck of the Year award. 2012 was the addition of the 2-liter EcoBoost powertrain. So it was the first turbocharged 4-cylinder offering in the Explorer. 2013, Explorer debuts with the black exterior treatment, stiffened chassis and suspension, larger brakes, new 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6, and that thing was generating 365 horsepower, 350 foot-pounds of torque. Those EcoBoost engines, they move. That's what I had. I had the smaller one in my truck, and that thing flew. 2016, they redesigned the front fascia, the hood, and the lower bumper, as well as LED tail lamps. Dual exhaust outlets help refresh the design. It came out with the 2.3-liter EcoBoost inline 4, while the new Platinum model is introduced as the top trim level. Platinum replaced the Limited that was for many years. It was refreshed again in 2018, new LED headlamps, fog lights, revised front fascia again. Sixth generation started in 2020, and it is still in that generation. No major redesigns. It definitely is updated from this, but it doesn't look a ton different. So that's the long, maybe kind of mundane history of the Ford Explorer, but I think it's interesting because so many people drive these things. It's not really fair to overlook the success of this car, and these are sweet. I mean, let's take a look inside. I should probably take this sticker off. It's nice inside. And you can see that we have one seat folded down. For some reason, my daughter likes to sit in the very back because she's too cool to sit with the old people, I guess. So yeah, nothing special, but definitely nice. Much nicer than what they looked back in the day. with our old 2007. I think the black looks good. Tinted windows in the back. All we're really gonna end up doing with this, you know, I've seen some luggage rack deletes that look really good, but I think we're gonna have to keep ours on, and we're gonna get, we have kayaks, so we're gonna get a kayak rack that can fit up there. But now that we got the new wheels, might do something with this front silver kind of painted cheap plastic covering here. And I want to get some black Ford logos. I think that would look really good. But yeah, if I can change that, black it out, and maybe some of the plastic trim. I don't mind that, and I like a little bit of the chrome. It matches what we've got going on with the wheels here, with mostly black with a little bit of chrome. But I wouldn't mind. I've seen some people do some like carbon fiber wrap on this, and that looked pretty cool. So that might be something I look into. I don't want to put a bunch of time or money into it. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to get me from A to B and tow and move things that we need to have done. So anyways, that's it. That's our 2019 Ford Explorer XLT. Pretty happy with it so far. One thing that I want to note here is that I joined the Facebook pages for the Ford Explorer like I do with any car that I'm looking at, or any car that I own, or any car that I want to own, or just any car that I love, because there is a wealth of knowledge online from all of you who both own these vehicles and know how to do things on them, either by experience or you're just mechanically inclined, where I am not. However, for the Ford Explorer page, I don't know. I assume it's because these aren't necessarily a braggy type of car where you're going to be posting a ton of pictures or a ton of videos, although sometimes you do see that. But for the most part, what people use these forums for their daily drivers would be more along the lines of problems they're having, or troubleshooting issues, or things like that, or just complaining about something breaking down on the car. So these groups aren't for the faint of heart with this 5th gen Explorer, and there are some issues. It seems the water pump sounds like a nightmare to get to. Clearly Ford wasn't thinking ahead when they put that where they put it. So I went through a little bit of an anxious period when I first bought this, because I just assumed like, hey, Ford Explorers, they're always amazing, they're always good. And this one may have some issues. However, to put things in perspective, and I've talked to a lot of my friends who are mechanics, so it's not just my lame opinion, but the modern car maker is able to stress test, and they're able to pinpoint the lifespan of modern car parts, and they don't make them to last for decades anymore. That's not the point of, it's not what car makers are trying to do. Before, they had to build something as sturdy and hardy as they could, because they needed it to last longer than the warranty, so that way they didn't have to pay for it to be fixed. And so they would just build it as tough as they could, and that's why older cars would last for so long. But modern cars, they can tell exactly how long it's going to last, and they make it last right up until the warranties cover them, and they're surprisingly accurate at that. So if you think about it, a car company, let's say, Mercury, which is now defunct, but Ford Motor Company, that made that 1972 Cougar that I love so much, they haven't made any money on that thing in 50 years. Or, I don't know, 40 years, I guess. So it doesn't do them any good that it's on the road still. I'm sure it's bragging rights and things like that, some sort of advertising. But realistically, as a company, they're not making money on that car. So what good does it do them to make a car that's going to last for 50 years when they can make a car that's supposed to last for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years before somebody gets out of it and then has to buy another car. So that's not a great thing. It's frustrating as a car owner. Well, especially for gluttons who like used cars like me and want to own different cars. You know, it's going to be harder and harder for us to make sense of doing that because used cars are just going to be, you know, eventually just piles of just worn parts that aren't even worth replacing if they even make them to be replaced anymore. So I guess what I'm saying is this Explorer has a lot of people complaining about certain things that they're worried about, and they're legitimate worries, but I don't think you're going to find another modern car that doesn't have those same types of issue. It may not be the water pump, but it'll be something else. And that's been pretty true with every car I've looked at. Every car that I've talked to somebody about who's an expert, quote unquote, on that car, whether it's just from ownership or they're a mechanic or whatever, they're always going to list off 2 or 3 things that are really concerning about that car, and they'll warn you about it, either to stay away from it altogether or just be ready to pay for that upgrade or pay for that repair. So that's just the modern world we live in. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily, I can't tell you a final review on this car because I haven't owned it for more than a month, but I'm not going to tell somebody to stay away from it, even with the research that I've done and the things that I've seen. I just don't think it's any worse than any other car as far as reviews and things to expect than what I've seen. Obviously, I shouldn't say any other car. Obviously, if you're paying for Mercedes or BMWs or something, but I'm saying in the price range of this car, I think it's as good, and the lifespan and the dependability is going to be as good as anything in this class. So we'll see. Maybe I'll eat those words, but I'm hoping that's the case. Explorer has a long history of being a great car. So I'm banking on it. I'm rolling the dice, and we're going to see how this thing rolls out. But other than that, I appreciate you guys sticking with me. If any of you watch this, who knows, because this is a daily driver and it's not that sexy and maybe nobody cares. But I've wanted to make sure and put a record down for the people who were in the market for an Explorer or just anybody who's interested. So I like this thing. It gets me where I want to go, and I wanted to share. So, hey, I got lots more on the way. We've got lots planned for this channel. I'm very excited to share with you guys. We appreciate you guys so much. Please like, subscribe, click the bell on this, share it with a friend. Tell somebody who loves cars or somebody who's into cars or somebody who maybe is looking for an Explorer, I don't know, and share our channel with them so they can look at it. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next one.